Okay, so this is a demonstration problem from chapter 1. And so since this is the first one that you're seeing here, normally I distribute these in the face-to-face class, and I do these on the board. So I have a whiteboard here in my home office, and I like to do these problems. That way you guys get an idea of how to manually work out some of these problems. And when you get into Connect homework, you might have to write something out on paper and plug the answer into Connect, but at least I've walked you through the process, step by step. So if you hopefully you printed out the copy of this demonstration problem that I gave you in the week 1 module. So copy of the demonstration problem. I don't have it up here. Obviously, I can't show you both at the same time, but I'm going to read through it, and then I'm going to walk you through the solution. All right, so it says, Jim is a florist who runs Bountiful Floral Shop as a sole owner. His typical monthly operating results include the following sales revenue, or include the following. So I took the liberty of writing this out already. I spelled alternative wrong. Isn't that nice? I took the liberty of writing most of this out just so that you didn't have to sit there and watch me write all this out. And so I've already got a proper heading for the financial statement here. Bountiful Flower Shop, projected income statement, and they don't give me the month, so I just put for 1 month. The status quo is everything I'm about to read to you that's given in the problem. So it says his typical monthly operating results include the following: sales revenue, $4,000, there that is. And then here are all his costs. Flowers, $800, supplies, $300, labor costs, $600, utilities, $250, rent, $720. And I have this licensing fee in here just because I know it's coming. We don't have licensing fee just yet, right? And then other costs. And typically we list other last. So when you add up all those expenses, you have total cost of $3,020. And you can double check my math for me. And then 4,000 revenues minus cost of 3,020 gives him operating profits of 980. So it's currently what he's experiencing in his flower shop. Okay. Again, nice thing about this video, you can pause it, you can write this down, and then you can come back when you're ready and finish off here with the alternative. So it says he recently attended a trade show and was attracted by a national chain that offered him referral service, baskets, and new flower arrangements in exchange for a monthly licensing fee of $1,000. He figures that the additional business from referrals will increase his revenues by 40%. Flower materials, supplies, and labor costs by 45%, utilities by 10%, and other costs by 20%. Rent will not change as he would still use the same facility. So the question is, should Jim expand his business to be associated with the national chain? So, attaching his name to the national chain would give him more exposure. Is it worth the $1,000 that the national chain wants to charge him for the licensing fee? Well, that's what we're going to figure out here. Okay, so we'll take this one at a time. The first one being sales revenue. And it clearly said that sales revenue will increase by 40%. So that's this revenue, right? So you'll notice that I have A, B, C, and D down here. And that's because I'm going to do the calculations in order that I use to get the alternative. So letter A is going to be that sales number. So 4,000, right? And clearly it says that that's going to increase by 40%. So what we want to do here is we want to take 4,000 times 1.40 to get Jim's new amount of sales. So why did I take it times 1.4? Because that eliminates a step for me. So perhaps you were thinking of saying 4,000 times 40% increase is $1,600, right? Add back the $1,600 to the 4,000, that gives me 5,600, which is correct. That does give me 5,600. However, instead of doing the second step of adding it back, if I just multiply by 100% plus 40%, which is the decimal equivalent of that is 1.4, right? I could have said 140% here, I guess. You get to eliminate the add back because it's already included in the decimal. So the difference clearly is $1,600. Okay, so that's our goal here, is to just figure out, should Jim go with this national chain? All right, moving along, go back to the front here. It says that The licensing fee is $1,000. I'll get to that in a minute. So revenues increased by 40. Flowers, materials, supplies, and labor costs all increased by 45%, right? So flowers, we got a couple things here. $800, right? And that's going to go up by 45% or 1.45, right? So 800 times 1.45 is 1,160. Okay, and that's a difference of 360 over here. Hopefully I'm lining that up as well as I can for you. Supplies, right? Also going up by 45%. The amount of supplies was 300. So you got 300. You want to multiply that times 1.45. And 300 times 1.45 is 435. Again, I recommend that you're taking the time to do the calculations as I do them, or again, pause the video if you have to. 135. Okay. Make sure you know where I'm getting all my numbers. Labor also going to go up by 45%. So that's the last calculation here that I'll jot down. That's $600 for labor times 1.45, right? And that is going to give me 870. So these all have letter B's attached to them, right? And the difference there is 270. Utilities, it said utilities would go up by 10%. So my utilities are 250. So we'll take those times 1.10 and they'll jump to 275 for an increase of 25. Rent, said rent would stay the same, right? So no difference. So it's not really that important. And the licensing fee, we didn't have one before, but if we go with this national chain, the licensing fee, the national chain is $1,000, right? And then other costs were $350, and they're going to increase by 20%. So that's my last calculation down here, $350 times 1.20, and add another 20%, that's additional $70. So that jumps to $420, and the difference is $70. All right, so need some totals here. So when I add up my, and again, you can put little lines here maybe to help separate. I add up my total cost, I get $4,880. Okay, revenues minus total cost gives me $720. The difference, when I add up my differences, right? Or when I add up my my expenses, I'm sorry, they add up to 1,008. Oops, I forgot the 1,000 here. Oh my, difference is 1,000. I skipped right over that. Okay, hopefully you caught that before I did. 1,860. All right. Again, add up your expenses. Sorry, I forgot to put the difference here on the licensing fee row. But anyway, add that up, 1,860. So 1,600 minus 1,860 is obviously a negative 260, which makes sense, right? Because I went from profits of 980 down to profits of 720. That's a decrease or a difference of 260, right? A decrease of 260. So clearly this is not a great deal for Jim, right? The question is, should Jim expand his business? Well, the answer to this is no. For part one, no, he should not, because he's going to lose money. Okay, he's going to lose money. So is that it for Jim? Does he just say, you know, this is not worth it? This licensing fee is too expensive. And I always like this part of the question, or any question, because really we gathered the data. So we have the data to make a decision, but is that necessarily where it ends? So the answer to part one, you know, if we were to answer this question as asked, it would be no, Jim should not expand his business to be associated with a national chain, not at least for $1,000 fee. Part two says, considering the loss, right, of 260, you know, what is the, what licensing fee makes him indifferent between the two choices if he could negotiate? So again, it says, if Jim can negotiate a different term with a national chain, meaning this license fee is up for negotiation, right? What amount would make the licensing fee indifferent between the two choices? Well, I look at that as if I'm indifferent, then this number should be 0, right? So in order for this number to be 0, the $1,000 would have to be, the fee would have to be reduced by the loss. So if he could negotiate a price of $740, then he would have a difference in operating profits of 0. But the idea, obviously, is to give Jim more exposure. So maybe he even tries to negotiate that down a little more. Or maybe he goes ahead and pays it, and he hopes with time that the exposure will bring more business. Nevertheless, in order for him to be indifferent, the fee would have to drop to $740, right? Because the loss is $260. So we've answered the questions to parts 1 and 2. Some chapters have multiple demonstration problems. This chapter only has one. Please make sure you review it, know where I got all my numbers from. And if you have any questions, all you have to do is ask. We'll apply these concepts actually in the Connect homework as well.